Luca is observing the sunset. He notices that the walnut tree in the backyard already reaches the window of his bedroom.
Wow, this tree grows so fast. This tree is like the European Union. It grew from its beginning and it got bigger and bigger until today.
Yes, Luca, this is a good metaphor for the development of the EU. And just as the tree in your garden, the EU is also changing and developing all the time.
What do you mean? The last member state that joined the EU was Croatia in 2013. So, during the last 7 years, the EU didn't change, right?
Just because the EU did not gain new members in the past years, it does not mean that it's not changing. For example, the United Kingdom left the EU this year, which is also a big change for all the member states. Besides that, change and development happen not only through new member states, but also in terms of the type of politic and economic cooperation. Some member states think that we are stronger together, and therefore want to work together more closely in every political and economic field. Other members prefer to make their own decisions without the EU and focus only on the common single market.
But if everyone has a different opinion, what will happen with the EU?
We don't know, Luca. Even the EU itself doesn't really know at the moment. To get an idea which future path the EU could take, the European Commission presented the White Paper on the Future of Europe in 2017. Depending on the choices the EU will make, this paper offers 5 different scenarios on the potential state of the Union in the year 2025. But keep in mind that this is just scenarios. That means that the future Europe will for sure look different than any of these scenarios.
That sounds interesting. Tell me more about the 5 scenarios.
In the first scenario, the EU countries and institutions mainly focus on their current agenda. That means that the EU would just carry on as before. For example, by focusing on jobs, growth, and investment by strengthening the single market. The second scenario offers the possibility to gradually go back to a union which just focuses on the single market. Economic cooperation will be the main purpose of the EU. There will be no more cooperation in political fields. The process of decision-making would be easier to understand, but the ability to act collectively would be limited. Instead, political issues would often need to be solved bilaterally.
Wait, I have a question. What exactly do you mean with bilaterally?
Bilateral just means that two sides, or in this case countries, participate or agree on something. By contrast, multilateral defines the same, but with 3 countries or more.
Thank you. Good to know. Please continue. What other scenarios are there?
Another scenario is a Europe of different speeds. The EU would allow willing member states to do more together in specific policy areas. Other members would have the possibility to join the coalition of the willing over time. The Eurozone, for example, works this way. Right now, it has 19 member states, but every EU country that wants to join is allowed to do so as soon as the economic criteria is fulfilled. In the first scenario, the EU focuses on cooperating more in certain policy areas, while doing less in others. The EU would be able to act much quicker and more efficiently as it decides to pay attention to just a reduced number of areas. A clearer division of responsibilities helps the citizens to better understand what is handled on the European or national level. The last scenario is that the member states decide to do much more together across all policy areas. They will decide to share more power, resources, and decision-making in general. Decisions on a European level would get enforced much faster. Internationally, Europe would speak and act as one voice and would therefore be represented by just one seat. For this, it is important that all the 27 member states get along with each other.
Aha, okay. And which scenario do you think is the most possible one?
Sorry, Luca, I'm not a fortune teller, but what I can say is that the EU faced many crises within the last years. This led to a lot of mistrust between the citizens and the EU institutions and the rise of nationalism in Europe. Several political parties all over Europe now promote the idea of being much more independent from the EU and taking political decisions nationally instead of collectively. In some countries, these parties are currently part of the national government, which challenges the EU and its idea of a united corporation as a whole.
Oh, yes. I've heard that the United Kingdom left the EU because they didn't want to be part of it anymore. This is one crisis, but what other crisis did the EU have?
In 2015, the refugee crisis resulted in a political crisis, since the EU members couldn't agree on a common policy to share the responsibility. The EU has already overcome a lot of challenges that shaped the Union's further development. Still, citizens' trust in the EU decreased from about 50% in 2007 to around a third in 2017. There is still support for the European project, but there is also a lot of criticism. The good thing is that the future of the EU depends also on us as active citizens. You have the chance to shape it with your own actions, and soon you will also have the right to vote.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Let's see what will happen.
Yes, exactly. But remember that you have an impact. Goodbye, Luca!